Okay, I'm going to set that brush to the side for a second. I'm going to use my number 6 small flat brush. And I'm just going to do more of the same. I'm running out of some of this dark, so I'm just mixing more up on the fly. It's just black, blue, and red. And a little bit of the medium to facilitate the spread of it onto the canvas. And I'll mat this together, and I want some different size buildings in here. Let me see here. Maybe there's something here with we're looking at it at a different angle. It's got a little bit of a peaked roof on it. There's all kinds of buildings in the city, so like I said, I'm just winging this, showing you how to approach something like this. You might have some landmarks in your area that you want to kind of duplicate, which should be fine. I'm just trying to throw different ideas at you how to use these materials for wet on wet painting rather than just the waterfalls and the sunsets and things I've shown you so far. By the way, we do have a lot of free art lessons on the Jerry's website, as well as my own website, wilsonbickford.com, and jerrysartorama.com, where they're just free art lessons that are clips that we filmed back a couple of years ago. Some of you might not be familiar with those yet. Check those out as well. Those are more geared towards smaller little clips on techniques for just certain aspects of a painting, not a whole painting like I'm doing here now. But we've had a tremendous response from those, and they're very popular, so do yourself a favor and check those out. They're pretty interesting. It's not just me. There's dozens of other artists on there showing you all kinds of things, portrait techniques, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so I'm just putting some different elements in here. Maybe something with a spire on it like that. Like I said, I'm not too worried about the water nearly as much. I'm just putting all these little stair steps in here to break that up. I'm going to come back and put some lighting in some of these areas, like windows. And see how I'm holding the brush? I'm taking it off the back of the brush. I'm holding it really flat. If I go in typically like you would with a brush like this and use the end, it just dredges up more of the yellow underneath. It actually removes more paint than to deposit it off the brush. So I have to take it off the back side of the brush. And see how it looks kind of milky in there? It's because it's picking up some of that background color. But like I said before, I'm going to kind of wiggle this all together with the mop brush, which will help even the paint layer out and take some of that fuzziness out of it, giving more definitive edges. Okay. Let me see, did I reflect all the buildings? Pretty close. Looks like I missed one here. Okay, I think that'll get me kind of where I want to be. Okay, I'll set that brush to the side. I'm going to take my 1-inch mop brush, which is nice and soft. It's great for blending. And I just want to kind of, where you see all these brush marks where some of it has picked up the background and some of it hasn't, and it's very uneven, I can come in and just kind of wiggle that all together so it's more of a flat monotone. It doesn't look like brush stroke on brush stroke. And again, I'm not too worried about the water as much, but I just want to get a more solid look, especially on the top side of in the buildings here. Just kind of evens it out somewhat. This is a great little blender brush for softening anything in your painting. Okay, I'm going to come back to this 2-inch scenery brush, and I'll wipe it off. Right in the middle here is my horizon line. There's going to be a break where there's going to be water versus the land. So I'm going to wipe this off. I'm going to find that line, just eyeball it, and I want to smear this out of focus a little bit. Pull straight down. Straight down strokes look very reflective, as you can see. See how it looks kind of shimmery like water? Pretty cool, huh? You don't have to use a lot of pressure, but use enough to distort the paint and actually make it smear. It's that blurriness that makes that work. All right. And like I said, you're going to have a lot more time to elaborate on this at home, so you can take your time. I'm just going to pop some windows in here. I'm going to use some of the white base coat. I'm using that rather than the thick white here because I know that the thinner paint will stick. This base coat is already about halfway to the thinness that I need, and you'll see I'm dipping some clear into that to thin it down even further. This is my number 2 detail brush, detail liner, so I can just kind of randomly plop in some windows. Now, if you were doing this at home and you really wanted to do a tightly rendered job on this, you could actually underpaint this to the point that I've done right now and then let it dry. Wet on wet is great. A lot of people like to take it a step further and embellish it when it's dry. I do that quite often myself, depending on what I want to do, especially in my animal studies and stuff that I do. But it's up to the individual. Painting is one of those personal things that you're going to want to do it your way to your satisfaction. And you're going to have to satisfy yourself before you try to satisfy someone else. So always remember to go with it with gusto, but do it to make yourself happy. Hopefully somebody else will appreciate your work along the way. Okay, there's some windows. I'm going to take some of the same color and put corresponding reflections into the water of the windows. And I'm going to come back and blur that here again momentarily. But see, it doesn't take much to get the effect. And I'm not knocking myself out painting perfect little squares. Like I said, if you were painting at home and you had a couple hours to really nitpick this, you could take it much farther than what I'm showing you here. This will give you the idea. And I know in the city they don't have just window lights like this. There's all kinds of lights. Red stop lights, flashing warning signs. I'm going to take some white first. This is just white base coat. I'm going to put a few brighter ones in here somewhere, which will kind of become a focal area. You'll see that these being lighter stand out more than the others. And if that's the case, I want them a little more centrally located on the canvas, not way out on the edges. And I'll put those in the water as well. And like I said, there's going to be flashing warning signs and stoplights, all kinds of things going on there. So I'm going to take some red, Cad Red Deep, and a little bit of the white, and some clear to make it come off the brush a little easier. And see, I've got a lot of paint on that round brush. I'm really loading that up. And here and there, I just want to put a few little touches of red. Make it look like other things happening in there. It makes it a little more colorful. This is a painting, not a photograph, so I can do it the way I want. I don't have to just take what's there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Enough to give you the idea. I'm going to come back with my mop brush. Now this has got a little bit of paint on it, so I want to give you an important lesson right here. This is worth the whole deal of watching this video right now. If I immerse this brush into my thinner bucket, it gets very wet, but since it's a natural hair, it tends to hold the moisture a lot. So no matter how much I wipe it, it's still a little bit damp to go back and work with. So what I do is I take a paper towel, rather than saturate the brush with thinner, I take a paper towel like this, I dip it into my cleaning fluid, which is just mineral spirits, and I just rub the brush, the tips of the bristles against the damp rag. See, that gets it just as clean, no residue in it, and just good to go. It's just like it was when I started. Now when I get done with this, you'd want to clean it thoroughly, but this will give you a way to clean it in between and it's still dry enough to work with. So I just want to blur that out of focus a little bit in the water too. Stretch those light reflections out a little bit. And I'll come back with my number 10 flat brush that I used earlier to base in the buildings. I'm going to swish this out in my paint thinner, wipe it off. And I want to come back with some wave movements in the water. Just to put a little surface on top of this will give it a little bit of a shimmer, so it feels more like water. I'm going to take some of the white base coat and a little bit of the thick white on my palette. And I'm going to use a little bit of blue. I don't want it to be pure white. This is the wrong time of day to have pure white in here on the water. I want something a little cooler, nighttime. So I'm going to chisel this together like this, nice sharp edge. And I'm going to come through and just randomly scuff a few little wave movements through here. You're going to pick up a lot of that background color, so keep your brush wiped off. I'm adding a little bit of the clear medium to it to help it get off the brush a little easier. Make sure they're random and not all the same length. And just don't blatantly draw lines. Notice how I'm kind of just scuffing randomly here and there. Keep them horizontal. Water lays flat, so your strokes should stay flat. But that kind of breaks that up and gives it more of a feeling of water movement. How are we doing? What do you think? Think you could do this? I bet you could. It's really not too difficult. It takes a little practice. Painting does in general, no matter what you're doing. But anything in life takes a little practice. I'm not a golfer. I've never done it. I'm sure if I went out on the links, I would be just about the worst you have ever seen. But I would also just about guarantee you that if I practiced it for a month, I'd probably be better at the end of that 30 days than I was when I started. Painting's the same thing. You got to get in and start, roll your sleeves up and get at it. You're going to learn along the way, and you will definitely improve. So if it's something you want to try, give it a shot. Okay, I'm going to call that Cityscape, and I'm going to say that's a done deal. Thanks for joining me, and give this a try and do your own little urban scene. Thanks for tuning in.